Hello, my name is Adam, and this is Cast from the Crypt.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do that again. I'm still used to the previous formula.
just say my name's Adrian.
Okay, okay.
I can introduce you if you want.
No,
Also,
no, 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 no,
okay,
no,
okay.
not at all. It's okay. It's okay.
You're a big boy.
Yeah. Uh, and my name's Adrian, and and we're still getting used to the new formula. I'm still
Yeah,
getting used to the new formula.
we're kind of just winging the intro, I guess.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Um,
Okay. Well, let's jump right
well,
into it. Continuing from last time, we're going backwards. Today we're going to talk about Halloween 2018, the reboot.
hmm Directed by David Gordon Green, written by the Jeff Fradley, Danny McBride, David Gordon Green team. A love letter to the first Halloween and a direct sequel that completely negates all of the other movies that came out, and probably with good reason.
Yeah, which is absolutely fair. I think Halloween 2, people love it. Personally, I like it, but I don't think it's as good as people say it is. I don't think it's better than some of the other sequels. I don't think it's better than this reboot. But
Oh,
I know,
really?
maybe that's a hot take, but
I don't think that's a hot take, but I'll say it's certainly mild in heat.
all right.
I really like Halloween 2. And one of my biggest gripes with this movie is that it doesn't just throw Halloween 2 in there.
Yeah, it could have.
It pretty much could have, but nonetheless, I like this movie a lot. Which I just wanted to throw out there before we cover it because I feel like, especially going back and listening to myself talk about Halloween Kills, I did not like that movie as much as I wanted to. But this movie, when we saw it in theaters, though I had criticisms, I really liked this movie for what it was. And having revisited it recently, this movie is really, really fun.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that because when we watched it together, all those years ago in theaters, I
Yeah.
had a blast just like I did with the most recent movie.
hmm
But the other night I rewatched it, and man, this movie was so much dumber than I remember it being.
Oh, no, it is dumb. It is dumb.
Oh, it was so
But
stupid.
at the end, but after all, isn't it a Halloween sequel?
Yeah.
Which Halloween sequel was just absolutely cohesive and made 100% sense?
Yeah. No,
Right?
there's a glaring flaw in all of them, but
Exactly, exactly. And I think this one is by far, in my opinion, the least flawed of those Halloween sequels. I'll
yeah,
say it.
I that's fair. It's dumb. The writing's dumb. A lot of the plot points are dumb. Same problem with the sequel to this movie. But just like the sequel to this movie, the parts that matter are the parts that are well done. Michael
Absolutely.
Myers is so scary in this movie, and
Yeah.
the kills are great. So, what else can you
Yeah.
want?
Absolutely, right? And this is again, I said this in the last episode, and I think it's worth mentioning always. As far as Halloween goes, you are by far a bigger Halloween slash Michael Myers fan than I am.
I might be. I love them.
You are. I think the movies are fine. I really enjoy the classic, but I don't love this character like others do. But this movie really, really made me respect Michael Myers as a character because there are some scary moments. There's some really good scares in this movie, and some fantastic kills. And watching it in the theater those years ago with you and talking about it in Denny's afterward, um, I just remember reeling off of the fun that was to be had with the brutality in this movie. Uh, and revisiting it, I had just as much fun.
Yeah, I had a good time. The thing that made me like really, I guess I didn't question it as much the first time around. Was just too happy to be in a theater watching it. I guess I don't know what happened, but rewatching it, the cold open begins with these two reporters trying to make a documentary about Michael Myers and the killings that happened, and how he killed his sister when he was 6 and all that. And they somehow get access to this bizarre asylum that he's kept at. They lead him out
chess field.
Yeah, they lead him out to a courtyard that is a checkerboard.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to enter the squares that are housing lunatics, I suppose. And all these lunatics are just chained to the center of these squares. And what place in the entire world has this system or looks like this? It's ridiculous. They're just trying to do like the Silence of the Lambs sequel thing that they made Hannibal Lecter walk around a little circle that he was chained to. But it's really bizarre. And then one of the reporters goes up to Michael Myers, who's absolutely lifeless, and he reaches into his bag and he's like, "Michael, do you remember this?" And he pulls out this decayed, withered, leathery version of the mask he wore in the original movie. And I think, it's that much older and it looks just so much scarier. And
yeah, it's got, excuse me, it has a catcher's mitt sheen to it.
yeah, real leathery.
It looks great, in my opinion.
It looks really good, and it's just that much of an improvement on the mask. It's keeping to the original, but also making it a little grungier, a little scarier. And like we said, the sequel did one-up that even more by kind of burning it a little, but I digress. And he pulls the mask out and he holds it up in front of him like it's a severed head. And he's like, "Look at it, Michael." And then I'm sorry, could you mute yourself a little bit? I don't know. Never mind.
What happened?
I could hear myself.
Oh, I turned you down.
Okay, good. Perfect.
You were very loud in my ears as well.
Perfect. All right. Well, then no problem. Yeah, and all the lunatics just start howling when they see the mask, and and he yells, "Michael!" and then whipping out that Halloween text, whip out the title card. And rewatching that, I was like, what the hell was that? It was so bizarre.
It's very weird. I actually kind of like it, though. I think it's very silly.
I do too. It sets the tone pretty right, I think.
Right. It's very faux serious, which a lot of this movie is.
Yeah.
But also, it visually, right, that chessboard look or checkerboard look to that asylum, I thought was very striking. And it certainly speaks to the danger that Michael Myers poses. I also like this opening sequence because it really actually speaks to the power of the mask that they try to emphasize so much in Halloween Kills, which we just saw. I in the last movie, or excuse me, I should say in the newest movie, I was so just not invested in the power of the mask, that thing that they were trying to sell to us. I thought it was cool that Michael was evil incarnate, but there was a lot of emphasis on his mask as almost a source of power. It was implied heavily. And now that I see that, the movie kicks off with him seeing the mask again and getting a hold of it soon, I'm suddenly kind of buying into these sequels. I'm kind of digging it more.
Yeah,
revisiting this movie gave me some perspective, I should say.
Yeah, I like the mask a lot. Like, I like the idea that seeing the mask has reawakened him.
Yeah.
One thing I kept noticing things from the sequel being in this movie or being like foreshadowed in this movie, and before they go out on the checkerboard in front of and they have to walk through all the crazies. The doctor looks at one of the documentarians and he's like, you might want to tie your shoe. Mr. Spivey over there has a thing for shoelaces. And I think, Mr. Spivey or whatever his name was. and it was just a guy with an umbrella, and it was that same guy that they thought was Michael Myers and they lynched in the most recent movie. But in the most recent movie, they act like he's like just some poor, harmless, mentally ill patient. And in this movie, they're like, don't let him see your shoelaces untied. Don't underestimate him. And he's got an umbrella just to look kooky, I guess. And I don't know. It kind of feels like they didn't make up their mind onto who this character is, or
Yeah. Well, and that sort of speaks to what is the larger issue in these two newest movies. Every character that's not Michael Myers, every character that is not Laurie Strode is just that,
yeah,
a character. Is the character work good or impressive? No, not really. Uh, other than Big John and Little John, of course.
course.
Uh, but yeah, that's the larger issue in these movies. I'm willing to forgive. To be honest with you, I didn't even catch that, what you just said. Um, so whatever, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know. What a cold open though.
Yeah, it is quite the cold open. And I will say, though these podcast characters are fairly unimpressive, at least from a character's perspective and from a writing perspective, I do like the commentary that's provided here. I don't know if you remember, Adam, but like 2017, 2018, the what are they called? True crime, I believe. Like the true crime podcast genre was massive. There's that incredibly famous one called My Favorite Murder, and there are people that just make thousands upon thousands of dollars talking about true crime cases that happen, and it's an incredibly popular genre of podcasting. And I've never been a big fan of it. I do find it to be rather exploitative, and these people certainly, these two characters, these podcasters, they're certainly thrown in there to show how exploitative and insensitive this genre of podcast can be. I'm not saying that they all are evil and they suck, but right after the cold open, when we find these podcasters trying to talk to Laurie Strode, and they venture into her home, which is just this junkyard house that is completely, it's the perimeter is locked down entirely, and you can tell that she's living in squalor and has major trauma, PTSD. But she of course doesn't want to talk to them, right? Because who would want to relive those events? And it really spoke to this era, this 2017, 2018, even 2019 era, where these podcasts were king.
Yeah, I don't. Wow, I never even thought of that. I never even knew. I guess I wasn't too focused on podcasts in 2018, but
Dude, I'm telling you. Like my favorite murder is the one that comes to mind, but there are tons of them. And that's not a new genre per se, right? My mom would watch Forensic Files on some random all access channel that she had. Uh and it's been popular for a long time, but it really blew up around this era. And these characters are definitely thrown in there as a result.
well, I think it's probably hard to make these characters unlikable and to have this commentary while also having Michael Myers be the patient they're interested, but they kind of do a good job of it.
Yeah, they do.
Especially when they go to see Laurie, which is the next scene. They start driving to Laurie's. Actually, the next scene takes place with them in the car, and one of the guys is talking into a recorder, trying to, I don't know why they do this while they're in the car, but trying to set up the next interview. And he's like, one monster has created another. And he hypes Laurie up. He acts like she's just as horrible and monstrous as Michael Myers, but she hasn't killed anyone. She hasn't done anything. She's simply the survivor of this killing, this massacre that happened.
Yeah.
And he acts like she's the biggest bad in town, and it's a little much. I think for me it was, at least.
And it's a bit of a continuity error because in the next movie, the people of Haddonfield don't even know about the Michael Myers murder.
Yeah, they
largely
kind of forgot. Yeah.
Right, they've forgotten. So why do these two English blokes know what is going on here because they're both English. Like they're not from America even.
Well, for their
So
true
why
crime
did
podcast.
I guess, yeah. I mean, whatever. It's mildly funny.
Yeah, it's these characters come out of nowhere and don't
They
really
really
make
do.
much sense, but
That being said, they don't last very long.
no, that's true. When they finally get to Laurie's house, the Strode compound, I think, is what it might have
Gosh.
been referred to
Yeah,
at
that's
this
fitting.
point. They go up to the gate and they're like, "Please let us in," and she refuses to answer. And they're like, "We're making a podcast," and she refuses to answer. And then one goes like, "How does $3,000 sound?" And then she lets him in and comes in, says, "All right, come in. You can interview me for $3,000." And they are the biggest jerks in this interview. It's like a confrontation sort of like interview, but it's like Lori she's just the victim. What are you doing all this for? Why are you being rude about it? And they like she's like, "Do you believe in the boogeyman?" And they're like, "I believe in Michael Myers, who is a mentally ill individual, and I think it's kind of rude that you're calling him the boogeyman." And they have taken this perspective that like Michael Myers needs help, and it's really insensitive of Laurie to not realize this. And it's like, are you kidding me? He tried to kill her.
Yeah, could you imagine walking into the home of someone that watched townspeople around her, friends of hers, get brutally murdered by a masked man, was stalked by a masked man, and then be like, "Well, I think he just was troubled." Why? Your perspective will, of course, be unwelcomed. You
Yeah.
know, even if there is a conversation to be had about rehabilitation, which of course in this context we know is not valid. But let's say there was. Why the hell would you walk into someone's house that is a victim of that person and approach it from this angle? It's absurd.
And the reason they were there too is they wanted to film an interview of her talking to Michael Myers. And they're like, I think it'll be good closure for you and Michael if y'all could just have a dialogue. And it's like, really? This catatonic murderer? This catatonic serial killer? You want his only surviving victim to talk to him? And that's gonna make the world a better place? Like, what is the idea? These people.
Very sunshine
suck.
and rainbows.
Yeah, they suck. But Lori, of course, declines. She says, "Give me my money." And they're off on their way. And then this is when shit hits the fan, I think. Is it okay if I say that, Adrian?
Yeah, I'm not
Okay.
offended. My sensibilities
All right.
are not offended. Yeah, no, this is absolutely when it hits the fan. and this is when for me the movie starts to really just succeed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you were totally right, dude. He does play with the bodies and do all sorts of
Oh,
kooky
yeah.
stuff.
He loves playing with the bodies.
So I don't know what I was on about in that last podcast episode. He really does. He's a playful guy, this Michael.
It's because that scene you're talking about in the second movie where he's stabbing the body, that's the only time you've seen him do it. Every single other time he plays with the body, you see with the body after he's positioned it, but you never see him actually do it. And so I think the reason you felt like it was so jarring or out of place was because this is the only time in all the movies we've ever seen him actually play with and position the body.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. But in the following scene, you do sort of see his playful nature, right? Uh, is it after the podcasters go and talk to Lori that he escapes? The bus crashes, and
I think first we get introduced to some of Laurie's just uninteresting family that we don't care
God,
about.
yeah, I'm so sorry. Again, I like Judy Greer. She plays Laurie Strode's daughter. I'm sure that Andy Matichuk, who I hadn't seen in anything else prior to these movies, is fine. But man, are they uninteresting in this movie. And Judy Greer brings nothing to this movie. Like, as far as her performance goes, she is so dry in this movie that it is painful to watch when she's on screen. I hope I'm not being excessive. Like, did you feel that?
Dry like a cracker, dry like a
Dude.
saltine. Yeah, it was.
God.
She's so uninteresting, and basically you're introduced, and uh, her name's Karen Nelson, Laurie Strode's daughter, and she was raised by Laurie to be like tactical, badass child. You got to prepare for the day when Michael returns, basically. And she's like, it messed me up, and we have beef with my mom, and yada yada yada. And her daughter, Laurie's granddaughter, is always like, have you contacted grandmother? I really would like to see her. And like, she loves her grandma, but her mom's, of course, got these issues, so they never get to see him, and it's a whole thing. But forget all that. Sometime after, we get to see, going back to Michael, we get to see the bus he's on um, crash tragically.
And
And just like
I
in the
wonder
first
why.
movie, someone escapes. Ooh.
Yeah, in that regard, this is very Jurassic World. Like, in fact, very. Uh, uh, oh my God, I'm forgetting the name of the first Star Wars reboot movie that they made. But anyway,
Yeah.
it's they just completely unoriginal
Do the same
origin
thing,
story
yeah.
as to why we are in the same circumstances. But in this movie, man, I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I don't know why they would ever transfer Michael if he's so dangerous and they have to chain him in a little checkerboard square. But whatever, I'll take it if it allows me to watch him work.
And I love the bus being crashed in this particular movie because people keep showing up to investigate, and Michael picks them all off. Like the bodies just pile up in front of this bus. Uh, First, we get a cop who gets killed. Then we get this fantastic father-son duo who are driving this truck, and the dad's like, "Come on, son, we gotta go hunting." And the son's like, it's really cutting into my dance class, and I don't really wanna. And I love this
That,
dialogue, this
that sweet,
exchange.
sensitive soul.
Yeah, his little sensitive son.
He just
Uh,
wants to dance.
but then they come across people in asylum clothes wandering the streets in this backwoods, foresty road, and the dad goes to investigate and disappears, and then this son is alone. The son gets out a gun. He's going to like look around, investigate because his dad has disappeared. And he gets on the bus, and the doctor from before who looks after Michael sits up very alarmingly. And I feel like this is partially the doctor's fault, really. He just jolts up from behind a seat and yells, "Don't shoot!" And then, of course, the kid reactionarily shoots him in the chest and then runs away because he's freaked out because he just shot a man in the chest. And I've seen a lot of people online talk trash about this kid for shooting this guy, and like maybe he wasn't having proper gun etiquette. But you must remember that this child is wandering through fog, surrounded by escaped patients from a mental institute, and his dad is missing. So like he's kind of on edge. And then this man, instead of yelling "Don't shoot" and then maybe showing himself, jump scares this kid. So I mean, what did he think was gonna happen? He's getting shot in the chest.
Yeah, he's also just a boy.
But a child.
A young man.
Yes.
Uh, I probably would have shot him too, man. I don't know. That would have
Yeah.
scared the hell out of me.
But miraculously, we find out he doesn't die. The
Yes.
doctor.
Yeah, he's able to to be in way too much of this movie.
Yeah. But before we
Uh,
see more of him, this kid freaks out because he just shot a guy, so he runs away. He's alone on the street. It's really foggy. He's looking around, and we see a certain shape, I'll say, appear behind him.
I saw
And
him.
we'll get to that.
Yeah, yeah.
And what might be one of my favorite scenes of this movie, Michael Myers murders this kid. He grabs him, starts just strangling him, and I think just snaps his neck after a little bit. And I love the brutality. I love that they showed this kid getting killed. No one ever has the guts to kill children on screen. And this movie did, and I'm very happy that it did.
Do you remember how shocked we were in the
Yeah,
theaters
because I
when
was
that
like,
happened?
oh, they're not going to kill this kid. They never kill kids. I didn't think they would, and then they did. And I was all for it. I was surprised.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed.
I was impressed. Yeah, that's a good word for it. Oh,
I mean,
I
there's
loved
just,
it.
again, right? And though I will gripe on these movies for not being very consistent, I will say that if he is evil incarnate, you make him evil incarnate,
Mm-hmm.
right? Uh, that's why it is mildly infuriating that so many people that are just there for plot purposes are kept alive throughout the last two sequels that have been made. Um, but I suppose that's just how it is. When Michael is living up to his reputation and being just a fiend, that is when these movies really, really they shine. And there is a lot of fiendish behavior on his end in this movie. Of course, the kid kill is pretty hardcore, and the next two are also incredibly brutal
Oh
after this
yeah,
bus sequence.
because now he's escaped, and the one
Yeah.
thing he needs before he goes on his Halloween killing spree is his mask. Who does he know that has the mask but those two foolish podcasters?
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
and he shows up. I guess the scene begins with these two stopping to get gas, and they're at this station. One's filling it up. The other goes to the bathroom. The other, I should clarify that the podcaster filling up, the one filling up the gas is a guy, and the one that goes to the bathroom is a girl. So she's just in the girl's bathroom. And then the door opens, and you think she like clearly just thinks, oh, someone's going to the bathroom. Then you notice that whoever's in the bathroom starts opening every single stall door one by one, and to her that's like kind of terrifying. Like, why is he looking in all these stalls? And then we cut back to the man filling up the gas. He notices something's weird because there's like a garage as a part of this gas station, and there's just sparks flying out of it. And he goes, I think, and then he goes to investigate, and he sees a man just lying face down in a pool of blood. Then he looks over to the cashier, and the cashier's face has been like smashed into the counter, and his
Just open.
jaw is broken. All his teeth are gone, just like he got curb stomped to death, basically. And so you know something's wrong. We go back to the girl in the stall. The man has reached, and Michael has reached her stall and tried to push it open, and she said, like, occupied, you can't come in, and she's a little freaked out by this person. And then he lifts up his fist and puts it over the stall for her to see, and he lets go of his hand, and teeth fall onto the floor in front of this woman. He had a fist full of teeth, and that's when she starts freaking out. And
you
what
immediately, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
no, you please.
You immediately put two and two together that he tore them from that man's
Yeah,
broken jaw.
and what a scene.
Yeah, it's a great scene. She proceeds to try to evade him, which is just ridiculous. I mean, you're dead already at that point. Your soul has left you the minute you see another human's teeth just drop to the ground in front of you. But she starts to crawl on this disgusting trucker bathroom floor. I mean, I'd want to be dead by then already. And then, sure enough, Michael gets a hold of her. No. Or does her friend come in first, or her man?
Her friend comes into.
That's right. That's
'cause
right.
He clearly knows something's.
So she's crawling on the floor, and our favorite Englishman comes in, and he tries to fight Michael, and proceeds to get his head just bashed against the stall door until there's no way that his brain could ever function again.
Crazy. He shows up with a crowbar, like he's armed and ready,
Right.
and Michael just grabs his head and smashes it into every surface, into this brick wall.
Yeah, he cracks the tile of the bathroom wall.
This guy's face, and I thought he was dead, but then the woman who's hiding in this bathroom stall, she's closed another door. He starts banging on the door, and he uses this man's head as a battering ram to break this door open. And when the door opens, he goes, Dana. So I guess he was still alive, but could you imagine? Like, what a way to see your
Yeah,
friend.
no, it's pretty rough.
It's
And I
brutal.
presume that they are partners, or that's my assumption is that they're
Oh, you
partners, and
think?
maybe that's what I'm gonna guess. But
Sure.
nonetheless, how brutal. And like again, I don't know what it is about the head trauma in these movies, but that's what I think is hardest to watch for me when Michael's just bashing a head like a melon against a hard surface. He does it often, especially in these last two movies. David Gordon Green's got something for the head trauma. But it's brutal. And then yeah, he uses the battering ram or he uses his head rather as a battering ram to get into the stall, and she's donezo right there.
Yeah, he just strangles her.
Yeah.
And it's these strangulation scenes, like maybe you could say strangulation isn't like very
It's
creative,
cheap. Yeah.
but the way they do it in all of the Halloween movies, I think it's always like so visceral. So like you can hear them choking, you can imagine the windpipe being forced closed, and Michael's always got these massive meaty hands, and you can hear the choking, and it's just so realistic. It's always just spine tingling every time I see it.
Yeah, it hurts. It's painful to watch, and I mean, really well done. Again, this is when these movies shine. Uh, yeah, and the sheer power that you feel from Michael. It's almost Jason-esque, but regarding Jason Voorhees, it, this brutality, this because Michael doesn't feel incredibly strong in the first movie, save for that kill where he pins Bob to the wall with the knife. That's maybe like the only time that I sense that he's incredibly powerful. But in these two movies, despite him being so much older, he is so strong, just so overpowering, and it really adds to the fear.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's. I mean, I guess by this point in the franchise, they have established that he is of supernatural strength. So
Right.
why not just run with that? But man, it's that scene in particular is just like what a great. I think that's the first. No, I don't know. Fantastic kills. Like it's such a. It sets the tone so well. Um, and I don't know, like for every part of this movie I thought that was dumb and stupid or poorly written, when I saw Michael Myers stalk these people, I knew someone was like looking in the bushes and I knew Michael was about to sneak up on him. Like anytime I knew Michael was about to make himself known and just cut someone up, just brutally murder someone, I was legitimately pretty scared watching that movie because I knew it was gonna come, I knew it was gonna happen, and I knew it was gonna be just horrific when it did.
Yeah.
But
And it was.
it sure was. Yeah, I guess moving on. I guess we'll move on. Those dumb podcasters are dead. Back to the Strodes.
That's what's happening to us.
I hope. Yeah, that is. To be fair, there's no better way for this podcast to end than us being brutally murdered by Michael Myers.
Yeah, it's true. That'll be our special 100th episode.
Yeah, we get killed by Michael.
It's just the sounds.
Yeah, it's us screaming.
But yeah, we're back to Laurie Strode, and we start to learn a little bit more about her relationship with her granddaughter here.
Yeah, we see her granddaughter like show up to her granddaughter's practice and give her some money, say happy birthday, and
Which is of course the money she got from the podcasters.
Yes, she gives it right, shows up and immediately hands it to her granddaughter for her birthday. It's very sweet. Her granddaughter goes home and talks to her mom about how her mom didn't invite Granny Laurie to her birthday dinner, and she's very upset, and she feels like her mom really hides her grandma from her, and she loves her grandma. She wants to see her. So she secretly invites her grandma to the birthday dinner. And I guess we'll skip it. There's a bunch of unimportant dialogue between these unimportant characters.
And it's all delivered so
Yeah, just
unpassionately,
yeah,
just so poorly.
lifelessly. But anyways, we're at that dinner. I like to talk about the dinner. It's Lori. No, it's okay. It's Karen Nelson, her husband, and their daughter Allison. These are Lori. This is Lori's family, and Lori's son-in-law. This man is the most just like. They didn't even name this character. I swear to God, his name is just Dad. It's the most like home improvement, cookie cutter, just stereotypical dad character.
Making dad jokes at dinner.
Making jet. Hey there, champ. Like, so dumb.
Yeah, no.
Might be my least favorite.
Well, and you know he's going to die within the first 5 minutes you see him.
Yeah.
And that'll come later.
Thank God. And the other two people at the dinner was Allison's boyfriend, Cameron, from school, who we talked a bit about in the last episode. In the sequel, him and his dad become more important. But it's Cameron and his dad, Lonnie. So it's like her family and then her boyfriend and her dad. And then, unbeknownst to everybody except Allison, Lori shows up because she invited her granny. She wants to see her granny. And her mom is not happy about it. There's like already clear family tension and drama. Do you want to take it from here?
From the scene with Lori and the dinner shenanigans?
The dinner scene. Do you want to explain that? I set it up, so do you...
Yes.
All right, please.
Yeah, so that's when Lori starts to... And mind you, it's been like 3 weeks since I've seen this movie. But Lori starts to try to urge Karen to take action because Michael has escaped. And there's a really, really, again, half-assed but hilarious line delivery by Judy Greer in this scene, where she's like, "Mom, this is why we don't invite you anywhere anymore."
No. Lori shows up and immediately grabs a wine glass off the table.
Yeah,
and
she
just
starts drinking.
Chugs it.
Yeah, and she's a drunk.
Yeah, and then Karen goes, "Mom, this is why we don't reach out anymore."
That's what it is. Why we don't reach out anymore.
And it's like, damn.
Yeah, there's a lot of brutal scenes in this movie, but that line is just really hardcore. And of course, you know, Lori is hurt by this and ultimately leaves them to their own devices, but she does try to warn her daughter that trouble is coming. And she's not wrong. And later on, they try to force the whole thing down your throat where, you know, mom was right and the daughter has to call upon the survival skills that she learned all those years ago after all. And it's very, very silly. And the whole buildup at this dinner scene is so awkward, especially considering that Cameron is there. But that adds to the humor of it.
Yeah, and this I would like to note is when we get a very good line. So Lori tried to, that night Michael escaped, she brought a gun because she knew he was going to be transferred to a new penitentiary and she was going to kill him. But then she like cried and had a breakdown and decided not to do it and left. And maybe she should have done it because of course that's when he escaped. But she saw Michael through the window. And then at this dinner scene, after she's drank all that wine, she started crying. And we get this amazing line where she goes, "I saw him. The shape."
Yeah. And we reference that how often?
Oh, like every time I talk to you. Like, the shape.
I stood over you once while you slept. And woke you up like that. I woke you up with I saw him. The shape.
No, you were the shape.
I was the shape.
You were the shape in that moment.
You saw him,
I
shape,
saw the shape,
and it was me. At 8 a.m. in the morning. Yeah, no, the whole dinner scene is so cringe-inducing. A lot of the dialogue in this movie and in Halloween Kills is just terrible. And fortunately, you're not watching these movies for the dialogue. But really, it leaves a lot to be desired. to say the least.
Yeah, and they wanted to throw the. They just wanted to call him the Shape at one point, throw it in there because that's kind of what they've always referred to him as. Off
Right.
camera, like that's a nickname he has, but organic it was not.
And like famously, that's what he was called in the credits of the first movie. And so then, since this is a direct sequel, they're trying to bring back less of the Michael Myers emphasis and more of like, harkening back to John Carpenter's film, using the Shape and the Boogeyman, as he's referred to several times in that first entry. It doesn't really work. He's still Michael to us. um, but it makes you smile, I
It
suppose.
did. I smiled a little too much at that scene.
Yeah, I think they would have been upset that you smiled at that scene.
Well,
It's certainly something that they wanted to be serious.
the Shape.
Yeah. Shape. Her breathy. I could smell the wine through the screen
I
in that scene. Um, but yeah, so after the dinner scene, Lori, of course, leaves. Her daughter has urged her to move on, that this happened and it's over, and she should get some help. And we now see Allison and her boyfriend Cameron going to, I think it's a school dance?
Yeah, they're talking about going
It's
to
a
the school
Halloween
dance,
dance.
and then we get to see them go to the Halloween school dance.
Right. Uh, and this Cameron character, mind you, has been on screen for like all of what, 15 minutes, maybe? I think the most interesting thing about him is that his dad is Lonnie, who is referenced in the first movie as well. Dr. Loomis actually scares Lonnie in the first movie. Um, but there's this whole scene that nobody cares about where Allison finds out that Cameron is cheating on her. Now, the imagery here is hilarious because Allison and Cameron go as gender bent Bonnie and Clyde. She is Clyde and he is
They
Bonnie.
say
And
gender bent. They keep saying that, but it's not gender bent.
yeah,
He is just female Bonnie, and she's just male Clyde.
that's true.
You know
You're
what I
right.
mean?
They don't gender bend it. That's a great point. And again, this is super dumb and nobody cares, but Cameron is totally caught like canoodling with some rando at the costume party. And Allison just leaves in a huff. She's super upset. And there's no stakes here. I don't know why we're supposed to care that this happened. In fact, I kind of question why Cameron is in this movie at all, especially like revisiting it. I was just confused mostly.
And in the sequel, they kind of like move on and get over it, and in the tragedy that's happening around them brings them back together. So this breakup didn't need to happen in the first place.
No, it didn't.
But the reason they do it is because they get in a fight over it, and he's like, "Babe, I was literally just talking into her ear. I don't know what you saw or what you think
He
you
was
saw."
not,
He
by the
clearly
way.
was not. Yeah. And then they get in. I think he's Spike the Punch or some other high school
Yeah, he's
movie BS chicanery, and so he's like drunk, and he at some point very unorganically goes like, "You're always on your phone," and he grabs her phone and throws it in a nacho cheese bowl.
yeah,
And
like
this is just like a convenient way for them to get rid of the phone, so that way she has no access. So that way, when Michael starts to chase her later, she can't get help. You know, that's
and
clearly
I don't
what
know
they're doing.
about you, but like the whole second movie, I was thinking this guy threw her phone in the freaking cheese, and I don't care about him anymore
In the
because
cheese.
I did not forget.
I'll
I
never
did not
forget.
forget, and I just hate Cameron. This character sucks. And don't get me wrong, like Allison's no dime. She's not a very well written character or well rounded at all. But Cameron's a garbage human. I mean, it's well established after he throws her phone into the cheese. And I get it. She had to lose her phone somehow. But she couldn't have just like left it at home after that terrible interaction.
Yeah. They
Like she just as easily could have been like, I don't want to talk to anyone. I'm leaving, and like left the phone or turned it off.
yeah, that they clearly just needed a way to get rid of her phone, but whatever. The writing once again, I think the worst writing is for the teenagers because it's very much like, what would a teenager talk like? And this
Yeah.
is what they think it was, and this I feel like is not it. I don't think any human probably talks like this. They also have another friend named Oscar, who's
Ugh.
the exactly. Yeah, he's exactly. Oh,
He is discount Josh Gad.
I like that. Yeah, he's just everybody hates him. He's always third wheeling. His dialogue's gross. He's I hate him. He dressed up as the devil for this party. They also have some friends named Vicky and her boyfriend. I think Dave is his name. So Vicky
Yeah, it's
and
Dave.
Vicky has to babysit on Halloween night, and then her boyfriend Dave, of course, comes over. They're mirroring the first movie where they're like, "It's Halloween, I have to babysit, but maybe you could come over later," and then canoodle or whatever. But all these characters, all these teenage characters, this like friend group squad, the dialogue is so inhuman and horrible. There's a horrific just info dump at the beginning of the movie where Allison is talking to all her friends and they're like, "Oh yeah, your mom was in that massacre," and they were like, and she says, "Yeah, she was," and another one goes, "Wasn't she her sister, or wasn't she the sister of the killer?" And then Allison says, "No, that's a myth." Like they're clearly like looking
Referencing.
the audience in the face and retconning the second movie.
Yeah, which I really like, by the way, but whatever.
I like that they retcon it, but could they not do it in like a less just obvious just info dump way? It's so like unnatural.
I mean, they might as well have like had Dave turn to the camera and wink
Yes, they really might as well have. It's
and do
crazy.
like the elbow thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, these friends are incredibly uninteresting.
Yeah.
Vicky does have one of my favorite scenes, but it's not because of her.
Yeah, definitely. Which we'll
It
be getting
yeah, we'll
to.
get to.
um
um,
in that
oh,
scene too, Dave's like, "Wasn't that like a long time ago? Why can't your grandma get over it?" And like they'll say stuff like that. They're just shitty. um we digress heavily, I guess. I wanted to give context to these teenage characters. I wanted to focus in on them a little bit.
right.
And when we talk about the original movie, next episode we will get into the teenage characters, but I don't think the writing for them was good in that movie either. But
Yeah, no, it's not. And honestly, this franchise is known for just archetypal shallow
yeah,
characters.
yeah, but
Yeah.
you know, whatever.
But nonetheless,
Nonetheless,
it is after this that Oscar, who is Allison's
well,
best
I'm
friend.
sorry, but
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
not ready to move on yet.
Oh wait, this. Oh what?
I just want to talk further about this party. All right.
Oh okay, go go go.
I didn't question a thing the first time I watched this movie, and I don't know why. Maybe I did. Maybe it's been a long time. I watched last time I saw it was in theaters in 2018, but I watched it again now, and this party, this Halloween, what school? Like they go to the school dance, and it's just a rave. They have synchronized choreographed dancers. There's a DJ. It's just people in costumes raving in a giant room that I guess is the gym. But what school has this? What school has the funds for this? It was ludicrous and unrealistic. And why would this ever exist? Every school I've been to was closed on Halloween, and they didn't do anything on Halloween because it's Halloween, you know?
Halloween in Haddonfield, Adam.
In Haddonfield, too.
Famously, Illinois. You know those Illinoisans. They love Halloween.
Yeah. Well, Haddonfield's just Salem, too, you know?
Yeah, it is. Does Haddonfield even exist?
I don't know, but I hope it does.
Me too. And if it doesn't yet, I hope they make it.
Yeah, okay, well, now I'm ready to move on.
All
if
right.
you would like to.
Yeah. So Allison is upset. Obviously, her phone is, full of nacho cheese at this point. And then we have this terrible like dialogue as she leaves upset with her and Oscar. where he just all of a sudden, in the most slimy way possible, asks if she wants to be friends with benefits so he can like comfort her. And the whole movie, we're led to believe that he's just like the sweet friend who really loves Cameron and really loves Allison and just loves that they're together. And then he, of course, pulls that 180 once she's single. Um, it's incredibly difficult to watch, uh, but it sets up an excellent kill uh, later on down the line,
It does.
where Allison and Oscar are walking home from the party, and he proposes this to her, this just really slimy pitch, where he just wants to hook up with her,
Yeah, he's
and
like
um,
he goes under the facade of like comforting her, and then he's like, "Well, now we can get together," and he like tries to kiss her, and she's like, "What
oh
the hell are
god,
you doing?" And he's like, "Well, you broke up with Cameron, so what? What?" Like he couldn't.
it's so gross.
Yeah.
It's so gross. Props to this actor because he is just awful.
Yeah.
Uh,
And the writing is just to make him like so cartoonishly, just like slimy and weaselly.
yeah, yeah, and it works.
She like,
But we.
sorry
Oh,
to
excuse me.
interrupt.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
She like starts running away from him after a while and is like, "You're gross, Oscar. Go away, ew." And he's like, "Wait, come back. I'm chubbing real hard over here." He keeps saying he's chubbing, and I hate it. And it's like, why did they write this?
Well, he gets his comeuppance shortly
Yeah,
afterwards,
you're right.
because he finds himself in what is a huge lawn, and he's alone because Allison left him. And he's in this huge lawn with these incredibly dramatic. They would probably be tens of thousands of dollars. This lighting system, but it's
Well,
motion controlled
you say
lights.
that. I know people that had these lights. I've seen these
Really?
lights. Oh yeah. I mean, it's
Wow.
Texas though, but maybe not in
Yeah,
Illinois.
that's true. Well, there are these motion controlled lights, and the entire lawn is pitch black. And he just starts seeing the lights around him going off, and he's alone, right? So it's clearly creepy at the very least. Um, but he sees a man in the distance, but then the lights go dark, even though Michael Myers is under the light, right? And of course, we the audience are waiting for what we know will happen. And slowly but surely, more lights start to flicker on, and he's looking around him, and now he's scrambling, he's panicking. And this is actually an incredibly effective jump scare in this movie. A light comes on, and we just see Michael fast approaching Oscar, knife up. Right? Is it a knife?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, knife up. We see a slash, and then it cuts away, and we see Oscar has been impaled on one
That's
of the
not what happened.
fences. Is that not what
No,
happens?
that's not what happens.
What
There's a
happens?
lot of lead up to that. It doesn't just
What
cut
is
to
it?
that.
Okay, help me,
Okay.
help me. I thought it cut. I thought it was a
No,
hard
no, no,
cut. That's
no.
what I wrote.
That's I don't know what you watched.
Then maybe I missed it.
I watched it 2 days ago.
Okay, okay, Tom. Yeah,
all
you're
right.
fresher.
Um,
I'm like old salmon.
yeah. So he thinks it's like he thinks it's the guy that owns his house
Right.
who's like kind of stalking him. The lights go out, then they come back on. Michael's closer. Lights go out, they come back on. Michael's running towards him. Then the lights go out, and when
That's
they come
right.
back on, he slashed him. And it's sort of like in the original when he slashes at Lori and he just gets her arm. Like he gets stabbed, but he's not mortally wounded, and he starts to run away. And he goes to the edge of the yard where there's this huge fence with, this like spiked tops, and he climbs up to the top and starts yelling for help. He can't get over it, I guess, and he's yelling for someone to come help him. Oh, there's that motorcycle. You hear that?
I do. Faintly, faintly.
God damn it.
This is gonna require more editing this episode. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
well, but it's okay. I'll do a better job this time.
You did a great job.
Yeah, but he is yelling at the top of this fence, and nobody comes to help him. At least nobody comes to help him, and he. You want to talk about what happens?
Well, Michael certainly helps him onto the fence post. um, it's the relatively sharp metal gate
Yeah.
posts that extend way up high, as a deterrent to intruders. And Michael essentially impales Oscar's face with the fence post. He inserts it just below his jaw, and it goes like through the top of his
Yeah.
mouth. And what's really gnarly is we're able to see the aftermath of that death in Halloween Kills, the sequel to this movie. But it's still, in my opinion, the shining moment in this film because it's actually one of the. It made me jump when we watched it in theaters. I remember that much. Uh, and it was just a really competently directed kill.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's one of those kills. It's like the way it's shot, the way there's this tension, this build up, and then
Mm-hmm.
the slash. It's so scary. It really is scary. Michael is scary in this moment, and that's what makes these movies good. It's that Michael, for as everything else that is dumb and stupid or whatever, Michael's untainted. Michael is always scary,
Yeah,
and it's well done. Uh,
yeah, I completely agree. Uh, that actually, unfortunately, soon enough we'll have to lead into what is maybe the weakest part of this movie with Dr. Sartain.
yeah, yeah. This dumb. He's evil Loomis basically.
Yeah, he's Dark Loomis.
Dark Loomis. Do you want to talk about?
Um, yeah, sure. So, uh, Dr. Sartain is, they set him up as the former student of Dr. Loomis. And Dr. Loomis, in all of the other Halloween installments, is the force for good. You know, he is the force for good that stands between Michael and, you know, him hurting any other people. He doesn't do a great job, but ultimately, Loomis is his foil, right? Or at least tries to be. So Dr. Sartain was on the bus that crashed and was, of course, injured in that opening scene, or not the opening scene, but one of the first scenes. And he is Michael's current psychiatrist. So he trained under Loomis and is treating Michael. Um, and he ultimately has joined Haddonfield's sheriff to aid in the hunt for Michael. And what I will say is that they do a pretty good job of convincing you that Dr. Sartain is just diet Dr. Loomis, right? He wants to help because he understands Michael's psyche. But uh, we do find out later on that Dr. Sartain has uh, ulterior motives, and it's just incredibly forced. It's not incredibly interesting to watch either. I'm trying to remember correctly in what order it happens.
Well,
Um,
first, some police officers show up at the bus who don't get slashed, and Dr. Sartain's alive despite being shot in
right,
the chest, and he says,
he
I've
is
been shot.
saved.
And by Halloween night, we see that he's actually gotten medical attention, and he didn't die, surprisingly. And then he's helping the police. He's driving around with them, talking about how he knows about Michael, and this is what he'll probably do. And he believes Michael is after Lori, and that they have this bond. Uh, you take it from here, I guess.
Yeah, he believes they have this bond. Right after Oscar is killed, Allison is able to escape, of course, and this is actually when we see the police officer and Dr. Sartain arrive to pick up Allison and hopefully take her to her safety. But they have an encounter with Michael, and Deputy Hawkins, of course, wants to kill Michael. He was there when Michael first went on, and they emphasize this later on in Halloween Kills too. But he was there in Haddonfield all those years ago when Michael first went on his rampage. But Dr. Sartain, again, like you said, Adam, has this would-be bond with Michael, and he is absolutely enamored with the Michael's motivations, what makes him kill, the way that he kills, and it's there that Dr. Sartain, just as Officer Hawkins is about to attempt to kill Michael, he probably wouldn't have anyway. He slashes Deputy Hawkins' throat with this like pretty sick pen knife that he has. um, and that's ultimately when we discover that in very Dr. Doofenshmirtz cartoon evil man fashion, Dr. Sartain has uh, allowed Michael to escape, and he is the reason that Michael is out once again. Uh, and Michael is unconscious due to Deputy Hawkins' attack. Dr. Sartain loads him up into the
Did you
car.
say he hit him with the car?
No, I
Well,
didn't.
that's what.
Is that what he did?
Yeah, he hits Michael with a car, and
then when he's gonna finish him off, right?
yeah, he flings him across the street, and then Michael's kind of unconscious for a little bit.
Right, and Dr. Sartain loads Michael's unconscious body into the car with Allison in the back seat of the vehicle. And to no one's surprise, except Dr. Sartain's.
Well,
What?
sorry. First, I want to talk about how after he stabs Officer Hawkins in the throat, he bends over to Michael and he takes his mask off and puts it on. And he's this
Oh my God, you're
tiny
right.
little man
I forgot about that.
with a bullet wound in his chest, wearing this mask, and he looks so unintimidating.
Well, he wanted to know how it felt.
He's like, "This is how it feels."
Oh my God, you're bringing back memories, because I completely forgot that whenever we were in the theaters watching this movie, there was a split moment where we kind of thought that Dr. Sartain would become Michael.
Oh, thank God he did.
Do you remember that?
Yeah,
we were
I
like,
was
oh
horrified.
no. And they probably were intending for that to happen too. But yeah, having watched this movie a few times since then, the effects of this moment are completely gone. It's just cringy. And the guy that plays Dr. Sartain, his name is. Oh no, I have it here
Oh,
somewhere.
got it. His name is
Haluk, Haluk Bilginer. Bless him.
Bless him.
He has this just terrible, like, almost whispery, like, sultry delivery to everything he says. I guess he's trying to emulate Loomis. He's not doing a great job of it. But as he drives and is headed to his destination, which is the Myers house, right? Or does he want to go see Laurie?
He's driving to Laurie's compound.
Right.
He wants to bring Michael to Laurie.
As he's headed to Laurie, which he believes drives Michael, that's what it is. Michael wakes up and, to nobody's surprise, kills Dr. Sartain. And does so fairly grisly for a man that orchestrated his escape, if you want to describe it.
Well, first they're both in the back seat of
Right.
this police car, Allison and Michael just kicks through the grate and grabs him, and first just kind of crushes them with it, and that's when Allison can escape. And I hate that Michael didn't kill her first, because that's very much like he would have. They just, for plot armor purposes, didn't make her.
Ugh. Yeah, Allison, her plot armor in these last two installments is so painful. So painful. But nonetheless, we do get some justice with Dr. Sartain.
You describe it.
I don't remember it.
I don't either.
Oh, okay.
It was not a...
No, but it's grisly, man. Does he gouge his eyes out?
Oh, yeah, no, I remember.
Yeah.
So
I remember it's grisly as hell.
Yeah, it's grisly. Maybe it's dumb, but it's very fun. So, like I said, he squished him with this grate in the back of the police car. Then he gets out and he pulls him out of the police car and throws him on the ground. Dr. Sartain gets to look up at his favorite patient one more time before Michael just stomps his head into oblivion like it's a pumpkin. Like it's a rotten pumpkin, and it's a little funny, but I guess it's also very grisly.
Yeah, it's rough. But again, at this point in the movie, you're reaching the last 40 minutes of runtime. The plot has to thicken, or the blood has to flow at the very least, right?
Yeah,
the plot stays pretty anemic. But yeah, Michael does make it to Laurie's home though, because he's been they're right there, right? Dr. Sartain makes it most of the way. And so that is why Michael reaches Laurie's home eventually. He does have a pretty cool sequence where he like ambushes these two police officers that are outside
Oh
waiting
man.
because Laurie's home is being protected.
And these police officers have this comedic exchange where they
Yeah.
talk about sandwiches and how this guy brought a brownie for dinner and how like it's this really funny back and forth, and I guess they wanted to throw a little humor in this otherwise grisly flick. And you know, they're comedy writers, so I get it. It feels like
Right.
they're putting a personal touch on it, and I like it enough. I don't think it subtracts terribly much.
No, I enjoy it too, and I think it's needed,
Yeah,
in a movie like
break it
this.
up a
And I
bit. Yeah.
think, I think that's what these two movies, the latest Halloween movies, have done really well. Actually, is break up the tension. Um, but I don't think we need to go into too much detail. He kills the police officers, uh, and now,
Well, wait. I do want to go into detail. Sorry.
oh, okay, yeah.
Part of
Oh,
the
the
even yeah. Come on,
jack-o'-lantern
come
head.
on.
Of course.
And
Excuse me.
these police officers, their death is hilarious because well, what makes the comedy of these characters even more enjoyable is they're killed off screen, but they're killed so grisly. They find the bodies of these officers later. One of them has been beheaded and had his head turned into a jack-o'-lantern with a flare. And it's so gruesome and really cool.
And they do it in like a panning shot.
Yeah.
You just you see this, and it's just such a horrific image. Um, and like part of me wishes that the murder didn't happen, off camera. But I also understand why they did it. One, for time, and two, it leaves it to the imagination, which makes Michael all the scarier.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, go ahead.
Meanwhile, I guess while this Dr. Sartain plot's going on and he's looking for Michael and everything. Before we get Dr. Sartain, we get to see Allison discover the body of Oscar hanging on that
Oh
fence.
yeah, yeah.
She screams, she freaks out. We skipped ahead too much, I guess. But there's also
I don't think her discovering him was,
well, listen, there's another part that is important. Before Michael has been discovered by Dr. Sartain, he just left from a very brutal slashing. After he kills Oscar, he moves on to a very welcome sight in this franchise, and that is we see Vicky babysitting Julian, who's this little kid that she babysits. She wants to get him to go to bed so that way she can have her boyfriend over and they can canoodle. They have a very like sweet relationship. It's very much mirroring the original movie where Laurie has a relationship with these kids that's very heartwarming, very sweet. It makes them feel real, makes them feel like people. And she gets her boyfriend over, and her boyfriend, however, does not feel real. He just sucks. He goes into these people's garage and finds a motorcycle and just like revs the shit out of it. Like he doesn't live in a neighborhood. Like this isn't somebody else's motorcycle. Like everybody in a 10-mile radius would not jolt awake. Like it's so loud. I don't know who he thinks he is.
Yeah, he's a tool, and his little hat.
What a
Dave's
tool.
little hat.
Yeah, I hate Dave.
Yeah, Dave sucks.
But while Dave's messing around outside, Julian runs down and says he saw the boogeyman in his closet. And Vicky has to go investigate, of course. And she doesn't find anything. And you think, okay, well, this is a weird red herring. You know something's going to happen anyway. But I think, what was he in the closet? He wasn't in the closet. Where was he? Where was he?
Yeah, no, he's in the closet.
Yeah, so he's the boogeyman's hiding. At first, she can't find him, and then she looks in the closet, and oh my god, for the first time, or at least
She looks in. Well, so it goes like this.
Yeah.
She attempts to close the closet door and can't. And this, of course, was a scene from the trailer. But she can't close the door because at first glance there's nothing in there, right? Um, but so she tries to close it again, and once again she can't close it. But then she like forcefully tries to close it, and Michael comes from behind the clothes, out of the closet with a knife. And I think Julian screams like, "Oh hell no!" and runs out and screams. And Vicky is left to brave Michael.
Yeah, and she starts to run away and slips on her own socks. And yeah, no, sorry.
Yeah, well, you know what
It's
happens. He
cut
gets her
to
right in the
pieces.
back.
Yeah, sliced and diced.
And again, it shows how brutal this version of Michael is. That he'll, kill this beloved babysitter. Not right in front of Julian, I suppose,
Well,
but
it was in front at the beginning. At least Julian just ran away, but he saw this man looming over
yeah,
her with a knife,
right,
grabbing
right.
her.
It'll certainly be traumatic, nonetheless. Uh, Julian is able to make his getaway, though, and isn't hurt, fortunately. And I'm glad because the interactions between Julian and Vicky are really, really funny. He's a wholesome character,
Yeah,
just in general. And the kid, they bring him back in Halloween Kills, because he was such a fan favorite in this movie. He's funny, foul mouthed, and again, just another example of some welcome comedic timing or comedic writing in this movie.
yeah, and they bring him back in the sequel like as an interview by the
Right.
news because he's like just out of it, and he's like, he doesn't seem very traumatized. I'll be honest. He's kind of got an air about him, like he's Mr. Cool Guy because he's on TV.
Yeah, he does. He
Like he
does.
didn't just watch his babysitter get cut to pieces.
If it was
But
the early 2000s, they would have songified him with autotune. That would have been a famous clip.
they would have. They would have. And we do
The
get an
dated
off.
reference.
Yeah, we do get an off-screen kill here. That I would have loved to see, but it's still really good. It's mirrors Bob in the first movie getting killed, where we see Dave nailed to the wall with a knife, basically, and I love it. I love the
Yeah.
callback and the kills where you get stabbed to a surface feel very gruesome and very grisly to me, and I love seeing them.
Yeah, because we know, like as humans, that it's impossible. But when you're watching the movie, you can just imagine the sheer force that Michael puts behind that knife. Major credit to James Jude Courtney, uh, because he's the actor that plays Michael Myers, uh, and he is just so large and uh, I mean, you really just get the sense that he is this towering, larger than life, evil character. And he's not like a young dude, right? This guy is mid 60s, but he's a very famous stunt performer, and though he's silent, he brings so much to these last two Halloween movies, just with his size, his stature, and his presence. So big ups to him.
Sorry, I had muted myself because of a train.
Oh, it's all good.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Michael. They always cast Michael so well. He's always so big and so intimidating. But I guess moving on, I suppose.
Yeah, we're nearly there.
Yeah, he gets. Allison discovers all of the horrors around her, starts running away. Dr. Sartain finds Michael, drives them back to the Laurie Strode compound, and we see Allison. We see Laurie has gathered her family up and is keeping them safe and secure in this house. Oh, I gotta mute myself. That train. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Allison is running through the woods around the Strode compound, and I guess it was established that Laurie has a bunch of mannequins because she uses them as target practice. but in what is, in my opinion, easily the worst shot in this entire movie. We cut to from Laurie and the rest of the family engaged with Michael. We cut to Allison running through the forest. She trips and falls into a clearing and looks around, and there's a bunch of scary mannequins, and then she screams, and then we cut back to Laurie as if we never saw that. I don't. This cut is so jarring. It's so unnecessary. I don't understand this scene. I don't know why she's screaming at mannequins.
Well,
It makes no sense.
They do nothing with the mannequins, right?
They do nothing with the mannequins.
I
Why
mean,
would they?
Yeah, but it sets it up as though it is a frustrating scene, if you can even call it that. It's a frustrating cut because, you kind of want something like what happened with Oscar, where you can't quite make out Michael until you can, and then it's too late. But again, the plot armor that Allison's in, you see this like pan to all these mannequins, and yes, it is loosely shown that early on that Laurie shoots mannequins as target practice, but like you don't buy that anything's gonna come of this, and then it's like this 3-second cut, laced in the middle of a scene. It adds, excuse me, it adds absolutely nothing, and I think jarring is a great word for it, like what you said. Really out of place.
It doesn't come up later either. I don't know.
No, it doesn't.
Well, at the beginning of this final Strode engagement, I guess, we see Michael. We see the dad go to investigate some police cars in front of his house, and he's gonna ask the cops what's going on, and that's when he sees that jack-o'-lantern looking fantastic. And as he like kind of backs away and is horribly disturbed from that sight, we see Michael walking right up to him, and in a very unceremonious, yet I think unceremoniously earned as well, kill. We see Michael just snap his neck.
Yeah.
Just chokes him and snaps his neck.
And, yeah, it's pretty lame.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lame kill, but what a lame character, too.
Yeah, super, super lame character. What is his name? Do we know it?
His name is Dad.
Is it just Dad? I thought it was like Ray or Steve.
Yeah, it's Ray.
Oh, is it Ray?
Yeah, it is, but it might as well be Dad.
Dude. Yeah, this character is so milquetoast. Yeah, I don't know. A lame kill for a lame character.
Yeah, this character's flatter than paper. It's like ridiculous. But whatever, we don't care. And then like the family's upset by it. Now they have to work past it. Their dad/husband has been killed, but you don't care at all. And it makes these characters that you don't care about even worse. Even worse, because now we have to see them deal with trauma because another character that was even worse than they are has been killed, and you don't care about any of them. And the fact that there's any time spent on this is like, it's droning.
Yeah. And then we have what is the final sequence, which has its ups and downs. It's simultaneously what we've been waiting for the whole movie, but it also forces two incredibly uninteresting characters into the mix. And I know they had to do it, I guess, because they've been selling this mother-daughter, granddaughter relationship the whole film. But in my opinion, Adam, this really brings down the resolution of this movie.
I do too, but now looking at it, I know they're going to make a third movie, and maybe that's when we can get our Michael v. Laurie and just have it be them duking it out. It feels like they're going to do it in this scene, and then they don't. They add these other characters, and it's a little less than desired. It's a little less than you wanted it. You wanted it to be very grandiose, but, whatever. It's not the worst resolution either.
No, certainly not the worst. We see the 3 Strode women. Wait, really quick. Allison's there, right? I'm pretty sure she is. She just doesn't do much.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, exactly. So we see the 3 Strode women there. Laurie and her daughter and granddaughter, 3 generations of Strode women ready to attack. And then, of course, Michael makes his way into the house. and our standoff begins. And I believe that the first interaction between them, Michael is able to get Laurie's hair and pull her back into a door, but she uses her gun to shoot off a chunk of his hand. Uh, yes, you unmuted.
Yeah, I was just the train is gone, but yeah, and we see in the rest of the movies he only has 3 fingers on his left hand, I believe. She
Right.
shot off 2 of them, and that's like, someone did damage to Michael. Someone did permanent damage to him, and that gives Laurie some weight, I feel. You want to continue?
Yes. This, of course, is mitigated by the fact that Michael is able to stab Laurie in her stomach, which is something that she suffers from the entire run of Halloween Kills, the sequel. And he also pushes her over the second story balcony of her home. Uh, Michael does want to go see Laurie after he pushes her off the balcony. Or excuse me, I hit my mic there. Let me start over. Michael does go to see Laurie's body after he pushes her over the second story balcony. And this is a pretty awesome shot that we get where Michael tries to go see if Laurie is there. And much like in the first movie, the body is missing.
Well, just like in the first movie, the body's there. Then Judy Greer distracts him, and then he looks back, and the body's gone.
Right. Very reminiscent of that scene in the first Halloween, and probably the best callback to the movie in this whole film, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, that's ultimately where Allison finally gets involved. She really does very little in this entire sequence, but she's able to get Michael interested again by calling out for Laurie. Michael learns their location and comes towards Karen and Allison, and that's when Karen gets her licks in and shoots Michael in the face. So again, there's some traction here. When we didn't know that this movie would result in a sequel as we were watching it, part of me did kind of think that it would be a one and done film and that they were going to kill him together in this movie, especially at this point when he's already missing a chunk of his hand and he's been shot in the face by Karen. Of course, this can't be the final blow because Laurie is here. And she reappears and she oh man, how does she knock Michael into the safe room?
Well, they've had this safe room. I guess we should probably mention.
Yeah, we should probably.
Is a safe room.
Yeah.
Very ridiculously, underneath Laurie's kitchen island, it's actually movable, and there's a safe room underneath it. And while Michael is looking around for them, Laurie shoots through the floor up at him, and that's how he finds out that there is a safe room. So then, after he thinks he's killed Laurie, Laurie's daughter and granddaughter are hiding in that safe room, and Michael goes and tries to use his mutant monster strength to pull the kitchen's island up from the floor and get into there. And he succeeds. They graze him in the head. And then Laurie appears and smacks him from behind.
I mean, but it's not a graze, right? It like shoots him in the jaw.
I mean, I guess, but he seems like fine afterwards. And I know Michael Myers.
He never dies.
It was the dumbest thing, too, because she was like, I can't do it, Mom. I'm sad. He's going to kill me. And then Michael appears, and she goes, gotcha. And shoots him in the face. Like, she's this badass, and we don't care.
We don't care. No one's here for Judy Greer.
No one is here for Judy Greer. She's the most just, like, suburban housewife. Like, that's all she, like, really, really carbon cookie cutter copy. And then they're like, yeah, well, she's also a badass. And no, she's not. And no, we don't care. She also is wearing a Christmas sweater for both of these movies that I don't appreciate. I think that's a
Me neither.
She hates Halloween that much.
Don't.
She wears
a Christmas sweater. I get it. Like, you're trying to sneak some character stuff in, but I'm good.
Yeah,
just leave it out. This is when Laurie pops up.
Yeah.
and she's able to knock Michael into the safe room, and Karen and Allison ultimately help their grandmother lock him in, and they of
Yeah.
course.
This bizarre, like, spear trap shoots through the door and locks him in. Then we find out Lori has rigged a propane system to leak
Mhm.
gas throughout her house so she could blow it up.
And they do exactly that. They set the house on fire. Lori says goodbye, Michael, in Shakespearean fashion, and she's of course fairly seriously wounded from the knife that just went into her gut. And her daughter and granddaughter have to help her out of the house. And they show the final shot them walking away from the house burning down. But uh, as they show the basement burning, we don't see Michael in the
Yeah.
basement.
And they're
Uh,
playing the music.
yeah, they play the music, and then of course we have a post-credit scene a la Avengers. But there is no Tony Stark. There is just Michael's breathing.
Oh, God, I love it.
Yeah, and it's a pretty strong finish in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I do like that those final few shots. First, we get Michael trapped in the basement. The basement's in the house is erupting into flames, and he's not moving. He's just staring up at them. And then we cut back to the basement, and he's not in it. And it's completely on fire, but he's not in it. And it's so mysterious. And that's kind of how the first movie ends too. Is he's suddenly gone, and you don't know where he could be.
Right.
And I like that ending. I like cool flaming house shots. You know. And
Yeah,
then
I
we
do
get the
too.
next movie.
Yeah, we get the next
All right.
movie.
I'm glad
But
that
there it
and that's
is.
it. Is yeah. Halloween
That
2018.
that is Halloween 2018.
Uh,
Uh, I'll say this: I like this movie a lot. Um, from a reboot perspective, I think it's one of the stronger ones that exist. I think that this team's passion really shows. Jeff Bradley, who I'm unfamiliar with, but Danny McBride and David Gordon Green, in particular, being huge fans of Halloween, it shows. And this movie gives a horror fan a good time. And I'd say, I'm speaking for you here, and you can disagree with me if you choose to, but I don't think you will. I think for big Halloween fans, this is probably one of the favorite entries uh, in the Halloween franchise.
Absolutely. It was such a good welcome back to the franchise. That's what it felt like. And it was very welcoming indeed. It had everything you needed it to.
Yeah, it has everything you need. Some goofs, some gaffs, some laughs, but most importantly, some lashes.
Some
Uh,
lashes, slashes, and bludgeonings. Yeah.
yep, yep, and it's pretty dang good.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I have fun with this movie. I feel like I really ripped into Halloween Kills, but Halloween 2018, I'd say, was a much stronger sequel
I
to
think so.
that original Halloween movie than its own sequel, and that's okay. That is fine.
Yeah. I have watched this movie twice now, and I'm going to watch it a lot more in the years to come.
Me too. And I'm gonna watch it as a sequel to John Carpenter's
Yeah.
Halloween because I do think it's the best sequel to it. Personally, I
Yeah.
really like Halloween too. Don't get me wrong, but I think this is a great sequel.
I think I might agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately for folks at home, I don't really know where you can stream this movie.
You can't.
Um, yeah, I not yet. I'm sure it'll come around. I rented it on Redbox, uh, a- as did you. Wink, wink. You
Hey,
totally
wink.
didn't pirate it at all.
Yeah.
You would never do that.
I would never.
And
I would never steal a house. I would never steal a car. Why would I steal a movie?
exactly, exactly. But yeah, so if you have a Redbox near you or a computer and a VPN, you could probably watch this movie. And it's worth the ride. I'm sure it'll be streaming soon enough.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining me, Adrian.
Hey, happy to be here with you, my friend.
Yep. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Happy Halloween.